Lord, we thank you for another day that you've given us. We thank you for living in a country where we have free and open meetings. And just ask that you would be a blessing to this meeting and that we would look to you for guidance in all things we do. For it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Go ahead and call Fiscal Court to order, June 4th, 2019. I see Randy Newcomb here. Good morning, sir. You're first up.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm here to present the fiscal year 2020 budget for the Kentucky Lake Convention and Visitors Bureau. You should have a copy of it in your packet. The board voted on this 2 weeks ago. We have a total income projected of $402,125 with total expenses the same amount. Of that $402,125, $314,250 comes from the transient room tax collected. That is the portion that will be put as a line item in the county budget by statute. The rest is made up from travel guide ads that we sell for the 80-page vacation guide we print, as well as a rack service that we have, which has 32 locations across western Kentucky, and people give $600 a year for their brochures to be put in that rack, as well as $45,500 from the state matching funds program, which that money comes from the 1% statewide transient room tax. But that comes up with our 402,125. As far as expenses, we spend approximately $126,600 on advertising and support, and another $63,650 projected on administration cost. Our payroll right now, salaries are at $118,925. That is 29% of the budget. For nonprofit service-oriented businesses and marketing agencies like ourselves, they recommend anywhere from 35 to 50% on payroll. So ours is at 29%, so we're well below what is recommended. The retirement, of course, did go up, so that was a nice little jump for us. So to offset that, our gross salaries are actually $3,000 less this upcoming fiscal year than was projected for the current fiscal year we are in. So there has been a reduction in the gross salaries. Any questions?
Randy, I got one. Did you get the this fiscal year's numbers?
No, the state has not released those yet. What they did is they went to a different company.
No. I'm sorry. I'm talking about the numbers that are reported monthly for the transient tax.
The transient tax? Yeah, not for the whole fiscal year, because we will not get the numbers for June until July 20th.
Okay.
So we are having to estimate.
Who are the businesses reporting their monthly reports to?
We have Christina Onnebecker in our office who collects that.
So those total numbers we can't get?
Oh, yeah. I can get you the exact numbers that we've collected so far.
Yes, that's what I'm
that's
talking
not, yeah, that will be.
Yeah, that would be, just so the fiscal court knows, the ordinance that, I think it was amended in 15, maybe
16,
13.
I believe.
But the fiscal court, the ordinance that was created, those businesses, when it comes to the transient tax, is supposed to monthly submit those numbers to the county treasurer's office. I think it was June of last year is when the last reporting was submitted to the treasurer's office. We don't have any numbers as far as what's been reported for this fiscal year. So looking at this budget, I know for me, I'd like to look at how much was brought in for this fiscal year.
Oh, that's not a problem. I can get you that exact amount for each month's deposit.
Okay. Is anybody got any questions on that? Have you seen the ordinance? We can get you the ordinance. But I think before we approve a budget, we need to know what's coming in annually. I think when we met, that was one of the things that I'd like to have seen. So if you can get those numbers, I would suggest we put this on the 18th meeting.
Does the court approve this budget, or do they accept it, Jason? Because in the past, the courts accepted it.
Yeah, the courts accepted it, but if you look at the ordinance, you have to come to the fiscal court
Right.
with a budget to request for the court's approval.
Right.
For
And
the
I can get
budget.
you all those numbers. That's not an issue.
Right.
I can get those for you today if you'd like.
Right. So without seeing those numbers, for me, I'd like to
Right.
to see
I
those
will
numbers.
say that the room tax that we have projected is based exactly off the numbers that we brought in this year. There's no estimated increase whatsoever. We don't have the numbers for May and June completed yet because until June 20th, they don't have the May numbers in. And until July 20th, they don't have to have the June numbers in. So we won't have an actual exact amount of the total room tax collected for the fiscal year until July 20th. And that's just the way the room tax collection works. They can't send the tax in until after the month is over, and they have until the 20th by ordinance to get that in. So we'll know the exact amount after July 20.
So to make sure I understand, because I think you've stood in front of this court, or at least me, saying that the months of June, which is the end of the fiscal year,
End of the fiscal year.
your projections, these are just projections.
Yes.
So the concern for your office is the month of June having monies available to operate.
The concern for my office is having money from July 1 to the 20th.
Right. But what you're saying is that the monies that come in, you can't present those monies for May and June, you can't present till July.
I can present May after the 20th of June when all the returns are supposed to be in.
So the month of June is the only one that you won't have.
I won't
because
have.
the 20th is when they come in.
Yes, the 20th of July.
So you can give 11 months of this current fiscal year. as far
After
as-
June 20th. Right now, I can give you 10 months.
Not by the next meeting, he wouldn't be able to. He would have 10 months, right? Isn't that what you're saying? You'd
Yeah, I won't
10
have the
months.
full amount for May
Yeah,
until June 20th.
June the 20th, which would be after our,
Okay, so May 20th is everything except May.
Except May and June.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. And so
Right.
what I've done is on the projected budget for May and June of this year, for next year, I actually reduced the projected amounts based on the percentage drop we've had in the other months.
Right.
And so this is a very, very conservative amount on the transient room tax for next year.
Right. No, I understand. I mean, you've said that, you budget very conservatively.
Extremely conservative.
I think the concern is that we don't have any of those numbers. That's what we discussed.
Oh, you'll have all those numbers. That's not an issue.
Right.
Chris is actually working today, so she can pull up a full report and get it.
Can you tell us again, because I don't think I really got a clear answer from you, who made that decision to change that?
That
Last
was
June?
a discussion I talked to Emily, the treasurer, said last year that a lot of the CVBs across the state collect their own. And I said, our board would like to do that because we were paying $2,500 for her to collect it. And the issue we were having is not that Emily was doing a bad job or anything. It's that when our numbers would come in, we wouldn't know who was collecting what or if they had turned in anything. So we didn't know if someone was behind or anything. So if we had like a bed and breakfast or a private home, if we went to them and said, hey, did you send in your transient tax? They could say yes, no. We had no clue. So we didn't know who was sending in, who was late, because at one time we used to have so many people sending their stuff in late that we would get penalty and interest on that. Well, we had no idea who was on time, who was late. We had no access to any of that information. So if we had, for instance, a resort owner call up and said, did you know that this house down here is doing overnight rentals. I'm like, well, no. So we had no idea if they were actually collecting or not. So we didn't have an answer. So we would have to get with Emily. Emily would have to contact them, send a letter, and then they were either, we couldn't follow up because we didn't know if they were collecting it or not. So there was just this disconnect that we didn't have, and we would get money in, and it would be like, okay. But we didn't know who it was coming from. So if someone said, hey, did such and such resort pay their, we don't know. So it was just a way for us to keep better tabs, and instead of having Emily spend time chasing these places down who didn't pay, Chris, by having her do it, she was able to go, and she's actually found several private homes that have been renting out and not collecting the tax as they're supposed to. And so we've actually got more homes collecting the tax now as they're supposed to because of that, because she was able to dedicate time to it. And we weren't having to sit there on the 20th of April looking at our invoices and going, we need money. And so calling Emily and saying, hey, do you have any money for us? It was just a way we had that money come in.
Right, and I think it was 2015. I think it was a
It might be.
1970s ordinance, but 2015 it was amended.
Right.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that amendment involved the current fiscal court in 2015. Were you present with that amendment? Did you participate in that amendment?
Yes, I'm sure I did.
So you were aware of the ordinance?
Well, the ordinance is based off the state ordinance.
Right, but the ordinance is pretty clear as far as how those monies are to be collected and where they're to be presented to through the fiscal court,
Right.
through the treasurer's office.
Mhm.
Again, as I expressed to you, my concern was that the treasurer doesn't have the authority to change an ordinance. This body does.
And
Just-
like I said, I have no problem with, if that's the way the ordinance is, that's what we need to do. So we just need to set it back up to where it goes through the treasurer's office.
Right, but my original question, and I think you answered it, was that you and Emily made those changes. Would that be fair?
Well, I came and asked her, and she said she didn't seem that it would be a problem, and next thing I know, we're collecting it.
Okay. I just want to make sure that the court understands that the court didn't make that decision.
Right.
And there is an ordinance, and so we're trying to get that back. So those dollars for this fiscal year, when I say that we don't have those numbers, the ordinance is clear where those dollars are supposed to be presented. All things go through the fiscal court. And I think before we make a decision on this budget, we need to see what has been collected for this year. Because at this point, I haven't seen anything. And I know when we met, that was one of the things that I asked to get was those numbers.
Yeah,
So
you will have those.
Okay.
And we want to be compliant. That's the last thing.
Right.
Trust, in 23 and a half years in doing this, the last thing I want is to be non-compliant with any ordinance or statute in state.
Right.
So,
And that's why it's important, you know, and I only bring this up is because if something were to have happened, discrepancies or anything like that, outside the fiscal court, I mean, those are serious implications and situations. And that's why, you know, it protects everybody involved when you bring it through the fiscal court and it's done right. So that's why I just want to make sure that everything is done right.
That's understandable.
Okay.
I'm 100% in favor of that.
Okay. So if you can get those numbers to us, I'd say the 18th we can present this again. That would be my suggestion because I know I can't vote on this because I don't even have the numbers for this fiscal year. Would that be agreeance? Is everybody fine with that? Okay.
Yeah.
You got any other questions on
No,
that?
I'll get those numbers for you today.
Okay, perfect.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Now, I do have a question. With the county treasurer's office taking back over the collection, Chris has a database with all the information in it. Emily had a database that she used. It was a different program. Who will be collecting it? And because we need to let all these transient room tax collectors know, because they've gotten used to going to a different route, so now we have to send them
There-
So they have to send their information in.
You're going to go back to the way it was done prior to this fiscal year. The treasurer's office and the ordinance is tasked with collecting, and the businesses are tasked under that ordinance to submit to the treasurer's office.
So what we'll need to know is, so we can let them know what address they need to send it into and stuff like that.
It's the same, 1101 Main Street, the
Well, see,
treasurer's office.
she had a special P.O. box specifically for
It'll
this.
be the same then.
Okay.
Yeah.
If
yeah,
she kept it. Because she opened up a P.O. box just for that tax collection.
Yeah.
So I don't know
Well,
if she still has it or not, but if
the-
I
the
could get
court-
that address.
The court, if she opened it up, it's the court's P.O. box.
Right.
So it's not Emily's P.O. box.
Well,
So it'll be the court's P.O. box.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, the court's P.O. box that she
Yes.
opened up for the collection.
Yes.
So if we know, if I can get that address, we can get it out to the resorts saying that beginning July 1, please remit all your taxes to this address.
Yes.
And we've got a form they fill out and everything very similar to what Emily had. So if you'd like to continue to use that form,
Yeah, everything should be the same
okay,
as far as how it was done before June of last year.
okay,
Yeah. And we'll get you all that information.
sounds good. All right.
Okay.
But if,
Thank you.
But if you or anybody from your office has reason to believe that somebody is not paying and should be paying, I mean, I don't have a problem, me personally, I don't have a problem with you using your staff to investigate that and then get that information to Erica's office so that
What we did in the past
notification
is,
can be sent out.
what we did in the past is when we would find out that information, because we're constantly on Airbnb.com, VRBO, and all these looking, because you would be surprised at the number of homes that are out there, which them being rented legally is a whole other issue that we don't need to take time with the court with. But we would send that information to Emily, and then she had a letter, if I'm not mistaken, that Jeff had written, and she would send that out to him when he was county attorney. And a lot of times that did work. Several times they ignored it, so. But yes, if we find something, we will gladly let the treasurer's office know so they can pursue that.
And if, for that matter, if she sends a letter and it's ignored, I don't mind helping with collection either, so.
Okay, great. All right. Thank you.
All right. Appreciate it, Randy. Next on their guest, Chris Freeman, our new 911 director. Good morning, sir. We're going to be discussing 911 grants.
I just want to take a few minutes and tell you all what I found in about the 3 weeks I've been kind of doing this thing out here. I found a couple pieces of equipment that we could apply for grants for. The first one is the recorder that we went over in the last meeting and opened the bid, so we got that ready to turn in. That's going to help us be compliant with national standards as far as how we do emergency medical dispatch and how we dispatch law enforcement, and give us a tool to pull random calls and to make sure our folks are handling those correctly. The second one, for about the past 2 weeks, I've been about neck deep in radio issues, trying to figure out what's going on with the radio system in the county. Our responders, every time we send them to a call in the south portion of the county, they're not able to talk to us, and that's not a good situation to send somebody into when you don't know if they're going to be able to talk to you or not. So we drove around that area, checked the elevations, things like that, trying to figure out why that tower is not performing properly. But I identified some stuff inside the radio room with the help of the folks that work there, and applied for a grant to fix that. The radio consoles that we have are obsolete, and they don't work anymore. Matter of fact, their speakers wired directly to the radios, and they're not able to select the channel to talk on. So in a normal 911 center, what you would have is a headset, and you would have a select and unselect channel where you can monitor two channels at two different volumes. One would be in your ear, and one would play on a speaker in the room. That would be your unselect channel. We don't have that functionality, so we can't operate correctly. So our responders are asking us to repeat a lot of things because of the other channels in the background playing while they're trying to talk to us. So there's a lot of repetitive asking for information 2 and 3 times. And as the sheriff knows, and anybody else that's been in law enforcement or a first responder, sometimes you only get one chance to holler for help on the radio. and we got to be as efficient in taking those as we can. So in identifying that obsolete equipment, the radios that feed those consoles are obsolete. The vendor doesn't support them anymore. That's why the cables are run directly to the speakers, is because there's no support for them. I think that 3 versions ago they quit updating the software in the system, so there's no fix other than to replace them. So that's an allowable expense in the 911 Services Board grant, which expire on Friday, so that term is over. So as soon as I get done here, I'm delivering about $200,000 worth of grants to Frankfurt to see if we can get them. And with the talks of going regionalized, like we're talking about doing, and the steps that we've already made to do that, one of the big things they're looking for in the grants this year is sustainability. So if you ask for money from the state, how do you keep from coming back next year or the year after that or the year after that to ask for the same money? So we'll be able to sustain. We've got a good plan to do that moving forward. We're getting ready to get into that. So our grants should score high based on that, the sustainability and moving away from the subsidy and having money to actually work and keep these things up. So I expect them to score pretty good, whether we get them or not. Again, that's up to the folks who do the peer review. So it'll be other 911 directors who will actually look at these. And then the other thing that makes them score good is just the sheer need. I mean, it's into life. It could quit working tomorrow, and we're unable to fix it ourselves, which $200,000, actually $169,788 is the total. So that's just one of the grants. So that would be, if we don't get that money, that's something that we would have to look at. So, but it's a pretty strong grant as far as the need. There's 10 different areas that you need to hit in the state's Next Generation 911 plan. We hit about 7 of them. So it'll score strong on that, and then I feel pretty good about them. So last year we were able to write grants and get $250,000 back for Barron County, so I'm hoping to get quite a bit back for here. So, and again, they're short time frame projects too, so if we get the money, get awarded, we would be able to start work mid-August, hopefully be done by December and have a lot of the problems fixed with the background noise, have folks back in headsets. When you do your job holding your phone on your shoulder and hitting the button to talk on the radio, it creates neck problems, back problems, sick days, and things like that also. So anything we can do to make those folks' job a little bit easier inside that radio room will help outside for our responders as well. So I'm hoping these will go through, and like I say, when I get done here, we're headed to Frankfurt to actually turn them in because the deadline's Friday, and I don't trust getting them there overnight or anything like that, so we're going to hand deliver them and make sure they got them.
Chris,
Any questions?
did you say that if they're awarded, it'd be August? Or did you say when we
Yeah,
anticipate?
what it is the deadline's June 7th, and then sometime in June there's a schedule for peer review. So 911 Services Board will actually review them to make sure they're complete, and then they'll actually have other 911 directors, I said on it last year, to actually look at these and and score them. And based on the scoring, they award the grants in July, but work can't start until we actually sign the paperwork and get all that done, and that's usually around August 15th or so when you sign the paperwork accepting the grant. So they do it all in 1 or 2 days, and they wait and get everybody at the same time, schedule meetings, get it all signed. So you can't actually start any work until you're awarded and you've signed, and I believe that date is August 15th. So once that starts, it's a matter of ordering the equipment, getting it in, and getting it installed inside the radio room, which is fairly quick. It's not any work outside, so it's about 4 computers, and I also asked for an extra one to allow for some of the increase in call volume that we're having. We got 3 consoles, and we got more than we can actually handle, and so that will help us out too.
Sheriff, do you have any examples of what, so that folks can understand
I
what?
guess basically what they're talking about is everything comes through a speaker like you would have on your desktop. Well, if we're talking, perfect example is getting dispatched to a injury accident. You dispatch fire, you dispatch EMS, and you dispatch police all at the same time. Well, what would happen is if we needed direction or if we need to talk to dispatch, well, if the ambulance is talking at the same time, when the dispatcher keys up, all we can hear is the other ambulance talking or the other fireman talking. We can't even hear the dispatcher because they can't switch channels back and forth. We hear just chaos whenever we're trying to go. So that's extremely important, I think.
Yep. And then, Sheriff, if you don't mind telling them about the issue down south of the county where you get out of the car and you go on things and you
Yeah,
can't
I mean,
talk.
that's the bad part. Aurora, there's a place in Aurora, if you get the new 80, at least in my car, you can't even get out in your car. You don't have any radio, and I don't have any cell phone service out there, but I'm AT&T, so it may be a little different. But, yeah, I think we're looking at other options possibly of, with new repeaters and things in the future that he's kind of responsible for everything inside, but I think it'd be kind of on my budget to be responsible for the repeaters and things on the outside of at least for the SO's part of it, sheriff's office part of it. But if we can shore up, it's at least the south end of the county. We've got some issues in Possum Trot as well, but at least that Hardin area, we can't talk in Hardin either, and that's obviously an area we're at a lot. We're out there more than we are in Aurora, but both of those two, anywhere on that south end is rough. And I think, didn't we say in that review that Cedar Tower is not even operational at all?
In the review that y'all paid to have done,
Yeah.
they said they couldn't find it.
Yeah,
So it
so
said that there
it's
was
probably
a
not
site
even
listed and they
operational.
couldn't find it. I couldn't find it the other day based on the report of the directions where it was at, so. But we went to Calvert and we went to the school there in Draftonville where the 300-foot tower is and looked at things and looked at as best we could. And, we've identified some small things that we can fix fairly cheaply, really quickly in stages. So hopefully we'll get that done very soon.
This is I'm a little bit more familiar with it than probably some of you, but this is much needed in the 911 center. And I know the repeater will be the next one we'll be discussing.
Yeah, I mean, we've played Russian roulette for the last 10 or 11 years,
Yes.
just praying nothing goes wrong and nobody loses their life. So it's time to take care of it. So,
Yeah. You go into a house somewhere, get hurt.
yeah,
no way to
especially
get
inside
out.
a house. I mean,
There's
it's
no
just
way.
like a phone.
Even in the car, if you have something, you wreck a car or whatever, you can't get out to get help, and you have to be at the mercy of somebody to find you and call. So we don't ever want that for one of our responders.
Okay. Unless y'all have any questions, we just need a motion to.
Will the repeater you were referring to take care of the problem?
It could help. That, I think June 25th, I think we'll have a rep come down
Yeah.
and dig into that a little further to make sure that would be a money well spent kind of thing before we decided to go that route.
In reading the study that y'all had done, they took some pictures of some problems that you had, but really didn't put any equipment on the repeaters or anything like that to see where the signal loss was or to see what the actual issue or problem was, and gave you a $1.3 million quote. So we're looking at actually putting some equipment on there, seeing where the signal loss is, seeing where the problems are, and then identifying what we can do to fix the infrastructure we have cheaper than that.
Yeah. Yeah, if the repeater doesn't help, then obviously we won't just throw money at it. But if that is, I mean, I think you said in Barron that they have much different elevation changes and they run off one repeater.
One repeater, 664 square miles, 300-foot tower, one repeater.
Yeah. So
And they
if
have
that's a
mic
possibility
extenders
here,
you're,
then
you're never going to get 100% coverage. It's never going to happen. It's like a cell phone. But they also have mic extenders, which basically makes their 5-watt portable work through their 25-watt car radio, which can get them out further. So we in bad areas, once we identify that, you're always going to have probably about 5% or less coverage issues, about like cell phone. So you're never going to hit it perfectly, but an entire south end of the county is not what we need to be doing.
I would welcome 5%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How far away from the car can they get with the mic extenders?
What was it you told us the other day? Was it like,
I don't remember.
see, it was several hundred
Yeah.
feet.
Yeah.
And inside a house, I mean, it worked out pretty good.
That's the big thing. If you're parked outside and you're inside and you can't get out, it's actually, I guess your portable's talking to your mobile in the
Yeah.
car, and then the mobile is what's
It's
sending the
actually pushing
signal.
out. So
So that's what helps.
it was several hundred feet. But the bad thing about what the sheriff just said, if he doesn't have the extender or doesn't have the radio working, he has to leave the house.
Yeah.
Doesn't have eyes on the folks inside it. Go back to the car to call out for the help that he needs, and then walks back into the house. The person could have time to have picked up a weapon, done anything, hid, run out the back door, whatever, and he has no eyes on that person. So it's a very, very unsafe situation to be in.
Yeah, that is a bad situation to be in to begin with. We would need a motion, if there's no other questions, we would need a motion to basically give me and the treasurer permission to sign these grants so that he can take them to KOHS.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Do you need those signed right now?
We already did it.
Okay.
Waiting on the motion, so we got it. So I'm ready to hit them up there.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen.
Good
See you
luck.
later.
Chris.
Next on their guest is Chad McCain, Rivercrest, be a KIA drawdown. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Getting closer by the minute. This is the drawdown request for the next drawdown through the KIA loan fund there for the Draftonville Sewer Expansion Project. After May's work on the project, we've got a tentatively scheduled date of next Tuesday to do the startup on the main lift station at the high school. So assuming we stay on that schedule and everything goes well, on next Tuesday, week from today, we'll be able to have that system fully functional and be able to take on new customers. The district will be able to take on new customers following that day of next week. So this drawdown request, the contractor's pay application, an amount of $149,383.99 for the work in May. That was primarily focused right there at the lift station site, and that also included getting out of the lift station site, doing the initial steps to get towards the trailer park there at Memory Lane, that we're trying to get that package plant taken out over there. Still waiting on some permits through the environmental cross-cutting agencies to where we can extend that line all the way to the trailer park, and once we get those, we'll be able to cross the creek and move in that direction.
Did the bar screen get installed at school?
It's my understanding there's a meeting today that should
11 o'clock.
conclude
I got you
that.
there at
Yeah.
11.
So should have an answer today, we hope, and then they can move on from there. Does anybody have any questions on the sewer expansion project? To your question there, Mr. Skaggs, that was I think that's the last piece of the puzzle there for Merco installing what we call line I from the main sewer main down there below the high school up to their treatment plant to get them tied on.
All right, if there's no other questions, we need approval to accept the drawdown.
So move, Judge. Second.
In favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you all very much.
Thanks.
Thanks.
We've got scheduled a Parks Board meeting at 10, so we can go ahead and go into the Parks Board meeting. We'll go ahead and call that into order. Brittany, do you want to come up? Good morning.
Good morning. All right. So, brief overview of where we're at on the finances with the park as of today. So these numbers are starting January 1 to current, and we have brought in a total of $21,292.15 in revenue at the park so far this year. Of that, I did implement a few new revenue streams at the park, and of that, $1,885 of that revenue is from the new streams that I implemented. In addition to that, $2,541.66 is in sponsorships and advertising that we have secured so far with the park. The account balances as of today for the Park Foundation account is $62,323.43, and in the sports operating account is $16,775.61. We have begun fundraising for the Miracle League of Western Kentucky. That has all been finalized, and we are officially the Miracle League of Western Kentucky now. That will be done through an umbrella under the Parks Incorporated. The 501c3 status on that new account is almost complete. I checked in with Dennis this morning. He said we're just a couple of weeks away from having that 501c3 approval done on that account so that everything will be tax deductible. We have brought in so far $2,000 in donations for the Miracle League. We have used those, the majority of those donations to purchase T-shirts that are being designed that will then be sold as a fundraiser. And we are doing the jail and bail on June 28th. That will be here on the courthouse lawn. I know several of you have already been listed as potential jailbirds, and more of you are going to be put on that list. We have 20 people confirmed so far that will be arrested on jail and bail day. We will have a makeshift jail cell set up down here on the courthouse square. I believe WCBL is going to be broadcasting that. People will actually be arrested and brought in. We've got inmate uniforms that they'll put on. Their bail will be set, and then they will start using social media, the radio, and phone calls to bring in donations for the Miracle League until they raise enough to meet their bail, and then they'll be released. So that's going to be a fun thing that'll be happening here at the courthouse. We'll have a call center set up to take phone calls, and
You
that should be
keep
big.
saying it's going to be fun.
It is going to be really fun for me
Relative.
and for everybody else. You know, I have had some calls and they've asked if they could do it in reverse. You know, pay to keep people locked up instead of paying to bail them out. Told them if the price is right, we can talk. As part of the fundraising for the Miracle League, I have put together a sponsorship packet, and I have started talks with some potential sponsors. I'm not going to release any details yet, but I have been in some finalized negotiations with someone for naming rights to both the Miracle League field and the playground as well. If this comes through, this would potentially bring in $400,000 towards the $1 million goal that I set for myself with this one sponsor. Hopefully in the next few weeks, we're going to be able to nail down the details of that, but that should be a pretty big, substantial amount that's going to be coming in for the Miracle League complex. And I do have copies of that sponsorship packet. If anybody wants to look over it, if you need copies, I can get those to you, but I do have those available as we start to fundraise for Miracle League.
Perfect. One question, Jason, you're going to have to help us make this decision. The old foundation, that's the one that we currently sit over, we're wanting to get rid of it, transfer everything over to the new foundation, basically get the fiscal court out of that foundation. But I don't know as far as dissolving that foundation, I don't know who created it.
I mean, that shouldn't be a problem. It's just
Okay.
going to be a matter of following the right steps and getting the document signed, but that
Right.
won't be a problem.
Would that be a board action, or would it be a fiscal court action?
I'm going to say, well,
Both?
without looking at and seeing actually how it was formed,
Do both?
don't know for sure, but probably both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I know that's one item that we were trying to decide. So if the foundation board would make, I guess, a recommendation to dissolve, and then when we reset or go back into fiscal court, we can take action to dissolve, if that's what we choose to do. Does anybody got any questions on that? Okay. So the one item would be an action item to dissolve the current board that the fiscal court presides over, the foundation.
Need a motion?
Yes.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And then the next request is to, and I don't know the action on it, but the next request would to take the funds that are in that foundation and move it over to the new foundation.
Correct. And we have the foundation account, and then we have the sports operating account, which the sports operating will become just kind of a collection account starting July 1, and all of that money will go to the treasurer to be put into a line item in our budget. So basically, it would just be for the foundation account that would need to be transferred over.
Yes.
The sports operating could be
Yes.
left the same.
Probably should have done that before you voted to dissolve.
Oh, you're talking about
To move the money, yeah.
to move the monies?
Yeah.
We just rewind.
You might want to undissolve and then move the money and then dissolve.
So moved.
To
Second.
Is there a second? All those in
Move, we
favor
do what he
say
just
aye.
said we do.
All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Now the request is to move the monies from the current foundation to the new foundation.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Now motion to dissolve the current foundation.
Go ahead, since you did the first one.
Motion.
There's a second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
So we've dissolved, reinstated, dissolved, and put her back in there, right?
That's right.
All right.
Anything else, Brittany?
I don't think so. Did y'all have any questions for me?
I would say until we get, as far as dissolving, checking out the paperwork and everything, I'm assuming it's all right to go ahead and move the monies into the new foundation, but
I have the new
The
account set
final-
up, and we have the EIN, so the accounts have been set up and all that good stuff. So it's just waiting to be transferred over.
okay. And whenever you find that out, I'll present it to the court once that's done. Okay?
Good deal?
As far as June the 28th goes,
Yes.
unless something changes, he
Uh-huh.
has a trial, and I've got family court, so
So,
we cannot be
Going
arrested. We
so I
cannot
need
be
to set a
arrested.
price for your get out of jail free card, right?
Yeah, we cannot afford to be arrested. so.
Okay.
May be held in contempt by another court if we don't show up.
Well,
We can work out
how
some numbers.
about, yeah, how about we
Fake
put
jail
somebody
versus
in
real
your,
jail, yeah.
put
Right.
somebody in your steed there. Identify somebody.
Yeah,
that-
if you're gonna opt out, you have to nominate
Default
somebody else.
somebody else.
Arrest
Yes.
my,
Yeah.
arrest my wife all day long.
And you're gonna be paying big when you get home now.
Yeah,
Okay,
All right.
good deal. Thank y'all so much.
appreciate it, Brittany.
Thanks.
All right, we need a motion to come out of the,
So move.
Second. I don't know that we ever.
that's a new one for me.
Go ahead and
We don't-
adjourn.
Well, we'll go ahead and
We don't
adjourn,
exist now.
because it's not official, even though we took action. Okay, so we're adjourned. Is there, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, we'll call back in the fiscal court. The next item is correspondence. This is for Corey Dysinger, who's my new treasurer, and the, I'm sorry, secretary. Yeah, you denied that real quick, didn't you? New secretary and the fiscal court clerk. And her, it's an appointment as an administrative assistant fiscal court clerk. Regular full-time, salary is $15.95. Effective date of personnel action is May 28th, 19. So we can welcome her on board. And that's just, since that's an appointment, that's to acknowledge the fiscal court of her appointment. Under old business, approve the minutes, May 21st meeting and May 24th special call meeting, and
So
May
move.
31st special call meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Under old business, B, RFP on the taxpayer location and collection service. You got that, Brad?
Yep. A advertisement was placed in the Marshall County Tribune-Courier April 30th, 2019. Marshall County Fiscal Court is seeking proposals for qualified businesses for taxpayer location and collection services. The taxpayer location and collection services will be required to locate and collect from businesses that should be withholding and remitting occupational tax and/or paying net profit tax in Marshall County. The taxpayer location and collection services shall have knowledge and experience in providing taxpayer location and collection services at the local government level. Bid packets can be requested from the Marshall County Judge Executive Office. Bids must be received no later than May 10th at 4 p.m. Marshall County Fiscal Court reserves the right to reject any and all bids deemed to be in the best interest of Marshall County. And looks like we've received one, received May 10th at 11:30 from Avenue Insights and Analytics. I can just read the scope of work discovery service initial meeting, a work plan, commencement of services, discovery services, deficiency audit services. In order to achieve the desired objectives of increasing compliance and revenue, Avenue will identify data sources, integrate data with records in our data warehouse, taxpayer communication, taxpayer assistance, human factor, and analyze taxpayer information, invoice business owners, taxpayer education, ongoing monitoring. There's phase one, preparation phase. Let's see if there's something at the end. Okay, cost. Avenue's compensation for providing the LTC and non-filer delinquent collection services shall be a contingency fee of 40% of the additional revenue received by the county from the services. The 40% shall apply to the current tax year, all eligible prior period revenues, and any applicable penalties, interest, and late charges. The contingency fee only applies to revenue received by the county. The term current tax year shall mean the most recent tax year for which local taxes are due and payable to the county in which Avenue has identified deficiencies. There's a list of references: Warren County Fiscal Court, Fulton County, Georgia, City of Vista Villa Hills in Alabama. And then they also included a letter of reference. There's references from Warren County. And that's about it. Which one?
So that's the only one we received?
Yeah, yes, it is. The only thing that I would want to make sure is that when they identify those taxpayers, that we're still collecting those, and they're not collecting for us. That would be the only hesitation I would have in making sure that we're still collecting it, and they're just retaining 40% of that.
Do you know, is this the company that Emily was thinking of?
Yes, this is the one that initially approached the treasurer's office, and Brenda and Emily had conversations with them about their services.
So it would be 40% of anything that they uncover.
Correct.
Per year, not just the first year's, it's
Yeah.
every year thereafter?
That 40% shall apply to the current tax year, all eligible prior period revenues, and any applicable penalties, interest, and late charges.
I think it's just 40, they're just saying 40% across the board, right? Isn't that what they're saying?
The term current tax year shall mean the most recent tax year for which local taxes are due and payable to the county in which Avenue has identified deficiencies. So when they identify them, they take 40% of that current tax year. But I don't really read that as ongoing, do you?
I haven't heard the words in there, if collected, either.
Yeah.
I don't want to owe them 40% if we don't collect the money.
Oh, sure.
I think we need to let council review all that.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to read into this in
Yeah.
detail and get a figure. And
I'm
it needs-
assuming they have a contract that they're going to send us.
Yeah, this is just the proposal. So, we can request, and I can sit down with them and just line out some of these details that we're questioning and then, bring it back. I mean, there's no really big hurry on it. It's just something- we've been talking about it for a couple of years.
Yeah, and I was thinking that it mentioned something about prior years too. I was thinking that we were just gonna start it from now and not try to
Go back.
go back. The plan to,
That may be outlined in our bid specifications. But
We can take a look at this. We don't have to take action today. We can
Yeah,
clarify a lot of things with this vendor.
just need to let Brad sit down with them and have them submit a contract that we can all look over.
yeah, since they're the only one, I mean, I can communicate with them and bring that back to the next court meeting if you guys choose to.
We'll table it.
There's probably a lot of money not being paid, I can assure you.
Yeah, and, we've talked about that, and without somebody out there finding it, we won't know.
Right.
So, I think it's a good service to procure, it's just, we need to make sure we know what we're getting into, so I can do that.
All right. Does that need an action to table it? Or direct them? We'll move on to item C under old business, Red River Road speed limit. I know Mr. Shelton pulled the petition, but I know Wendy, you went out and the sheriff went out, so you want to?
Yeah, Eddie and I both went out, and we made the decision that it needed to stay at 25 mile an hour. There was a lot of intersections and stuff in the portion of road that he wanted to raise, and we didn't feel comfortable at 45, and so then we decided just to stay with the 25 mile an hour, and then Mr. Shelton reached out to me and said that he didn't mean to stir a hornet's nest with all of his neighbors, and he wanted to,
Pull his petition.
request, yeah.
Okay. We'll move on to new business. Item A, animal control part-time new hires.
Animal Control is requesting to hire 2 part-time. This is just to replace current employees, no additional. One is Autumn Evans, and the other one is Ashton Harrington, both starting at $10.42 an hour, beginning in June. Just need a motion for those hires.
So move.
Second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item B, Treasurer's Report. You should have a copy of it. There's no questions. We just need a motion to approve the motion, or approve the Treasurer's Report subject to audit.
Motion approved, subject to audit.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is payment of the bills.
Motion to pay the bills.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.